Hi, friends and family. This is Ed Hidalgo, and it's a pleasure to be with you. I'm here in my workspace in the Cajon Valley Union School District. I'm excited to have you as a part of this introduction to the work that we do, and really a focus on understanding how we help young people begin to consider their place in the world. So I'm going to provide us an overview of the work that we're doing, invite you into the process of learning more about this work, and hopefully engage you in moving forward and experiencing some of the things that we do here and some of the tools that we use. So let's go ahead and get started. And, I think we'll run probably 30 minutes or less. I'll try to watch the clock here. And hopefully we'll be able to go through some of these things today, kind of a little understanding of who I am and how I got to what we're doing, how all this work began, why it's important. And I'll go ahead and place a T there so we can correct that spelling, what it is that we do, and then this opportunity for you to explore how you go further into this process. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right in. So for those of you who aren't aware, I had the great opportunity to work in human resources and talent acquisition for almost 20 years. And I spent a number of those years supplying talent to corporations. And then I also got to work within a big corporation, Qualcomm, and hired thousands of workers. And I've hired everything from a custodian all the way to a senior vice president. And I have seen people who are thrilled in their work, and I've met people who are miserable in their work. All up and down the continuum, no matter the title, the wage, or the type of industry. So this idea of development, career development, well-being, and thriving, this idea of education and the path to employment has always been really interesting to me. So I'm very fortunate that I get to work in a district, really helping young people begin to know who they are, understand what's available to them out in the world, and then charting a course for being able to get there. So, but while I was working in the corporate sector, one of the opportunities that I had to learn further about this work and how we help people really manage their careers was the opportunity to start a career counseling practice for many of the engineers that worked at Qualcomm, of all places. And what was interesting is there are many engineers, high skill, high wage, have been in education for a very long period of time, not always necessarily very happy in their work. They may have developed the aptitudes and the skills to be good at it, but just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you're going to like what you do. And so we worked at helping these employees begin to discover a language of who they are, so that they could then have conversations with their managers about how they could perhaps craft different work environments, different work roles, and maybe move out of certain roles into new roles, take on new projects. And so through that developing of a language of strengths, interests, and values, they were able to show through data that we were able to increase the thriving and well-being of our workers. And so that was a really big deal. And so we did that for thousands of workers, actually. So in doing that work, we got to learn about a lot of tools, the career counseling tools, and some of the tools that you'll be invited to participate in through this process. But we've used tools from the Myers-Briggs Company, from the Gallup organization. I myself am a coach and certified in many of these tools. And so as we began to provide these tools to the workers, they began to develop a language and understanding of themselves, get more clarity. We thought, wow, wouldn't it be interesting if we could do this for young people? Why does this start so late? And that led to starting a makerspace for middle school students at Qualcomm called the Think a Bit Lab, that basically began to step into the world of education and provide more access to young people to begin to explore the world of work. And it was through that experience that we had the opportunity then to spend a year studying how we might integrate this into schools And I eventually left Qualcomm to work at the university and then to work in this K-12 school district. We currently have 28 schools and 16,000 students here in El Cajon. And so the work that we'll talk about today, we've been doing it for about 5 years, and we've been able to publish some research, and there's some wonderful articles that have been written about our work. We even have a playbook that talks more deeply about how we do this work in schools, and even have some longitudinal studies. But kind of one of the essential elements of what we're talking about today is this integration of education and the world of work. How do we bring these two together to help young people know themselves, know their options, and then make informed choices? And the question often becomes, how early do we begin to educate young people on the world of work and help them develop an occupational identity? And so that's why I love this quote by Dr. Paul Hartung, and we should read it here together. And it goes, vocational development, it begins much earlier in the lifespan than generally assumed. And what children learn about work and occupations has a profound effect on the choices they make as adolescents and young adults, and ultimately on their occupational careers. So what Dr. Hartung is saying is that obviously from an early age, young people are exposed to the world of work. You step out of your house, you go out into the world of work, and you notice people in occupations. There's also things that you hear from your families, your parents, about the world of work. And that affects how you feel about certain occupations. And some people will say that's a boy job, not a girl job, and vice versa. And some people say that, is only for these types of people, and that may not be for me. And we want to cancel those things out and ensure that every young person has an opportunity to explore lots of different careers and really consider themselves and how they might fit in the world. So for us, it starts at a very early age. And there's a lot of career theory that helps guide our career development model. And so we started by understanding, what have researchers in vocational psychology, industrial and organizational psychology, and educational psychology, what have they written and studied related to this topic? Because we didn't want to do harm to young people as we began to consider, how might we do this in the earliest grades? And so these are some of those researchers, probably heavy reading, something you want to spend your weekend focusing on. But for us, this is the process that we undertook to really develop our framework. And so I want to invite you to understand the framework that we use in the district and now with partners. It's called the Mission of Me. And essentially, these are the types of things that we will be talking about. This idea that every young person and every adult should gain a level of self-awareness of their unique strengths, their interests, and their workplace values. These are core elements of self-awareness, understanding who you are. Every young person should have an understanding of both academic and career opportunities that are available to them out in the world. How would a young person aspire to a career they don't know exists? So it should be our jobs as adults to be able to bring greater exposure to what's available to you. And as parents, that's our jobs as well, to ensure that young people really hear about the world of work, the work that we do as adults. It's a prime examples of things that we should share with our young people. And then thirdly, that every young person should be able to tell their story. And I can almost guarantee you that every interview that you have is going to, at some point, there's going to be a question from the interviewer, tell me about yourself. And imagine how much more effective you can be in that interview if you're able to share about your strengths, interests, and values, about your academic journey and maybe internships and career, and how that aligns to the opportunity that you have in front of you that maybe you're interviewing for. So this is the Mission of Me. At the core, literacy it is a must-have, and I'm guessing that if you're watching this, you probably have a strong literacy skills already, but it's not something to cast aside. And certainly in our environment, we ensure that it's a key element of what young people are learning in school. So that's the core framework, that's the model. And through our discussion here, we're going to focus on interests, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. But first, I kind of want to ground back as well on a great book by a friend of ours. His name is Michael Horn, And as we're talking about this idea of choosing college and maybe aligning who we are to college majors, this is a great book I recommend to parents and young people. And one of the core elements that Michael brings up in this book is that a lot of students who matriculate into college, the ones that end up dropping out, many of them don't have a why for why they went and matriculated into college, that they got into college. So, maybe they did it because their parents thought that was the logical next step. Maybe they thought because society demands it that you just naturally matriculate into college. But when you yourself as a young person don't have a why, like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? What is this connected to in relation to who I am and who I want to become? Those many times are the students who end up dropping out. And it's a hard thing to have happen, certainly for young people to drop out and maybe have to course correct, and it could be more expensive for families as well. It takes longer for you to graduate, and there's a lot of implications when that happens. So what if we can stem that from being a reality? What if we can help young people make better choices as they begin to matriculate into college, or whatever it is for post-secondary education? Because it might necessarily not be college. It might be apprenticeships, or it might be a 2-year versus a 4-year. And so those are the types of conversations that we want to be having. And this might be a good resource for some of you who are watching. So let's, as we go back and we think about this aspect of self-awareness, I really want to focus on our time on this idea of interest, because that is the grounding element of the work that we do here in Cajon Valley. It is often said that the self that a person makes themselves into is a function of language. And if you don't have the word for it, you don't have it. And so the focus on this framework that you see in front of you, it's Dr. John Holland's framework of the RIASEC. This is the most widely adopted and researched measure of vocational psychology. So this is a framework model that has been used for more than 5 decades, that vocational psychologists, career counselors often use in order to help their clients discover their interests and make connections between their interests to the world of education and the world of work. And in our environment, we begin to use this language starting in kindergarten. And what's important about this framework is that it's very simple, but it's also rich in information and complex in the way that it can be used. But essentially, the 6 themes that you see here, the realistic doers, the investigative thinkers, the artistic creators, the social helpers, the enterprising persuaders, and the conventional organizers, most people are typically going to claim 2 or 3 of these themes as their primary interest themes. And what we know about these themes is that they're typically unstable throughout early life, right, at childhood, and then through middle school, still unstable. And they typically begin to stabilize in later adolescence. So late high school, early college age range. And certainly they can change over time in adulthood, but typically they stay fairly stable. And so our process, our experience today will be to help you begin to move further down the path and understanding your RIASEC themes. And this will lead us to a process of participating in a valid, reliable, and empirically based interest inventory. But that will only come after you have a chance to explore these themes for yourself. And so this is the work that we're doing with young people, every child, every grade, and every year in our district. I'll share a little bit more about that as we go. But I want you to understand too, the power of interest and why we've grounded in it is because research has shown us that interests fit. When we understand our interests and we make a connection between our interests and the world of work or the world of our hobbies or volunteer activities, that this connection predicts employment outcomes such as success, income, and performance. Because when we find that our interests are connected to the work that we do, and this only makes sense, that it's going to drive these other aspects that are required in order for us to be successful. And specifically, when we look at how vocational psychologists talk about the motivational properties of interest, it's really around these ideas of direction, vigor, and persistence. And I'm going to show you how that works, but I want you to understand some of the writings about it, some of the research about it, but let me show you a model. So this is essentially a model that we can use as individuals to think about, and as coaches to think about, how are we experiencing our interests and how our interests are aligning to the outcomes or the goals that we set for ourselves. So I may have certain interests, whatever they might be, and a coach may ask me to provide examples about the types of things that I'm doing that align to those interests. And that coach might seek to understand aspects of direction towards achieving a goal, maybe persistence in overcoming hurdles that I might face or challenges that are very difficult. And that word vigor, like that intensity level with which we apply to things that we're trying to accomplish. And through that, we're trying to understand, what are those goal-oriented behaviors? Are you staying up late to practice? Are you looking at YouTube videos in addition to what you might be learning in classroom? Are you spending more time on task, getting good at something? Those are those behaviors that we want to see that ideally are going to lead to goal attainment. So what's the outcome? What happens at the end? And it's a question that you must ask yourself. Did I achieve my goals? Or did I not? And why? Maybe maybe my interests are not really aligned to the goal that I set for myself. But it's a rinse and repeat model, because you come back to really gaining more clarity on your interests and determining, is that really something that's for me? Again, maybe that was a goal that someone else placed on me. That's not really a goal that I chose for myself. And therefore, I don't really have direction, vigor, and persistence around that goal. So it's no wonder that I didn't achieve it, and vice versa. So this is why interests are so important. Vocational interests and the use of the RIASEC are so valuable, because it helps us build a common language around different varieties and types of interests. And so in our community, in our work, in our schools, our goal is to have every student have experiences in each of the RIASEC theme areas every grade and every year. And so for you, as someone maybe who's starting to think about college majors or think about career, I'm wondering, how much exposure have you actually had to different careers? If you look at these 54 that we hope our students would experience every grade and every year, many of these are very new to students. They've never experienced what a climate change analyst is, or what does a dietitian really do, or a technical writer, et cetera. So the idea here is that careers are organized by the RIASEC, just as we're organized and can organize ourselves by the RIASEC. So if every child has the opportunity to explore a career that leads with each of these theme areas, might they become more clear with their own themes? And so as you're thinking about the assessment that you're going to take at some point through this process, it's going to ask you questions that align to the types of questions and processes that people in these work environments might naturally take on. And so the more exposure that you've had across each of these RIASEC theme areas in different careers, maybe you've heard about it, you've seen it, or you do work similar to the way they do it, you may have greater interest in those areas. And some of that will be revealed through the inventory. But this is a process that happens across our lives. We gain exposure to things. And in our school district, we're placing a priority on this exposure early and often. So sometimes parents begin to ask me, how is the RIASEC practical for someone who's thinking about college and career? And so I share with them that there are some exemplars out in the universities that use the same language. And one of those is Tallahassee Community College. When we think about a 2-year university, TCC was recognized as one of the top 10 colleges in the United States last year by the Aspen Institute. And one of the reasons is that during the COVID pandemic, they didn't lose enrollments. And one of the reasons that they attribute to it is because of this community of cares program that they integrated about 5 years ago. And what happens is they have counselors that work with students that want to join TCC. They work on exploring and understanding their interests, and then they work to align the students' interests to pathways that are offered at TCC. And through that, they've had much more success at graduating students of color. And as I mentioned earlier, maintaining enrollments. And what I find interesting to this reality is some research out of 2021 out of Australia that talks about this idea of interest value. So only interest value via career decidedness and task effort directly affects students' persistence in their chosen study program. So this alignment between interests and what students value and the alignment to a career that may connect with that major really has an effect and an impact. So this is a 2-year college. How about a 4-year colleges? Well, here's some of the colleges and universities that also use the RIASEC. Now, they don't use it unless you step into the counseling office, but know that many of these schools that I have here, in fact, all of these schools, they actually organize their majors by the RIASEC. So as you see here, elementary education at Arizona State University is organized as a social, artistic, and enterprising major. So it's powerful when you have an understanding of your own themes. And then as you think about majors of study, the potential when both of those elements fit. And if we take a step further and look at the connection in careers, here you have the ONET online. And the ONET is the government's database of jobs, and it's been around for many, many years. They organize about 900 different careers or more. And they also classify their careers by the RIASEC. So that's pretty useful. So in fact, here's elementary educator, once again. Now they organized it as an SAC, social, artistic, and conventional, which I happen to agree with after working with so many elementary school teachers. And our workforce board here in San Diego has 7 priority sectors of employment here in San Diego County. And they also use the RIASEC to organize career areas and career themes by the RIASEC. So you can see how this work is evolving, how the RIASEC becomes a common language from the earliest grades all the way through career. But you're probably still wondering, what does it sound like? So I thought I'd get some student voices into this presentation. And you're probably thinking that there's no way that a first grader can talk about the RIASEC, but let's listen to one just so we can make sure that you see that this is possible for all young people.
Hi, my RIASEC code is ACS. I'm artistic when I use my imagination and create things. I'm conventional when I learn and also because I like math and numbers, and when I sort things. I am social when I help and be kind. Thank you for watching. Bye.
So it's so important to really understand this language through this process and understanding our themes. And this is a first grader who is very clear on their themes, and the drawings that they've provided here really give us some clues. And this is a gift really that the teacher has provided. And it's one of our exemplary World of Work instructors. So as you can see, can as early as a 5th grader. And when you provide this work consistently across every year, and it's never too late, but you really start to hear students understand the importance of this work. And this is a 5th grader who's going to share how she feels the RIASEC, the importance of the RIASEC.
It helps kids and even adults know what they want to be in the future.
For adults, some adults, they make wrong choices in bachelor's degrees, like something they're not interested in. And that can lead to them like not being interested in their job. And when you're not really interested in your job, it's like reading. You're not interested in it, you're gonna do bad at it. And you may even get fired.
If you're not interested in it, you're going to do bad at it, and you might even get fired. So imagine a fifth grader who's been exploring this work, learning about the world of work, learning about her place in the world of work, is already making connections between her interest themes and what she may do, and the cost if she doesn't make those right decisions. Now, getting from where you are to where you're going is never a linear experience. And even if we planned everything out perfectly, there are chances of you deviating off the path and heading in different directions and exploring lots of different things. That's normal. That's what we want. But the more that we can help you get clear on who you are, the greater clarity you're going to have perhaps about those decisions you make and how you shift, and also keeping you out of situations that you definitely don't want to get involved in, or you definitely wouldn't align to your interests. So, and I find that a lot with the STEM careers and STEM professions. There's a lot of push to get young people into STEM fields. There's a lot of people who have no interest in STEM fields, and they feel that pressure. I need to go be an engineer. I need to go into math. And they don't want to do it. Their themes lie in other areas. Their interest lies in other areas. And we need to encourage that. Those are the gifts that you've been given. Let's build on those gifts. So a first grader, a fifth grader, and this work is integrated into our high school as well. And I just want to share that with you too. Our high school is a competency-based high school. All of our students are on internships. And as our learning goal for all of our students, one of the core area of competencies is that mission of me framework that I shared with you earlier. So developing self-awareness, curating the journey, and communicating their story is critical for every high schooler that goes through the process to really understand those elements of self so they can get ready for their internships and then make really informed decisions and choices around their post-secondary education. So you've learned a lot about the RIASEC in a short period of time. This is an opportunity for you to get to understand the language, understand the importance, how we got to where we are, how we're using it, and even hear some student voice. Hopefully that gives you some context about the work that we're doing. And I really want you to step into this process of exploration. And this is one way that we invite people to participate. And my hope is that you'll do this. Maybe a daughter with a dad, maybe a son with mom, maybe a son with dad. But I'm gonna give you some tools here so you can get started. And once you get started and you complete, then I will invite you to take the inventory so that we can see what the science says. But right now, I want you to self-report through this process. And so really, the recommendation will be that you go ahead and get this bit.ly link and download this document that you see in front of you. Download this document that shows each of the RIASEC theme areas. And my hope would be that you take this document and that you begin to explore each of those RIASEC theme areas through these images and videos that you can link up to. I have the bit.ly link down below, just like I had the bit.ly link on the previous slide. I want to invite you in to watch each of the 6 videos. And as you watch each of the 6 videos, I want you to jot down a point on or next to each of these bullets. So maybe if there's 2 of you, maybe you alternate. One takes R, one takes I, one takes A, one takes S, one takes E, one takes C. Or if you watch the videos together, great. Each of you jot down the points that most resonate with you around each of the themes. And you begin to build a story or understanding of what each of those RIASEC themes means. So the videos that you see here, they're about 1 minute. They're created by the University of Buffalo. The counseling department uses them. We use them all the time. You have a beauty of some words and language already on these images. You can use some of those words. or you can use some words that you hear through the narrator. So watch all 6. It won't take you very long. Begin to jot down the themes that you hear, that resonate with you. And at the bottom, you see that I've identified priority sector. Well, what I'd like for you to do, and I want to invite you to understand this resource, go to this link and you are going to see the 7 priority sectors in San Diego County, which is really useful. And it's life sciences, it's energy, construction, and utility, it's education and human development, it's public administration and advanced manufacturing. They're all around my office here. And I want you to go into each of the priority sectors, and across each of them are careers under each of the RISEC themes. I want you to look across each of those 6 and identify a priority sector career that you think most identifies with each of those themes. So this is going to provide you an opportunity to have knowledge and access to the language, to the words, to actual careers. And at the top, what I'd like for you to share are your top 3 themes at the end of this experience. The themes I will share with my group are, what are the top 3? If you could only have one, what's your top 1? What's your top 2? And what's your third? And then from that, we will begin our conversations going forward. And so I think that gives you a really good landing place and a great foundation to understand this language, to even explore some different careers before you step in and take the assessment inventory. And so once you come back to me and message me that you've completed your jigsaw, then I will send you a link and you're going to participate in 2 surveys. You're going to take the MBTI. We're going to look at your preferences on how you like to work and learn and how you make decisions. And then we're going to look at your strong results, which will bring us back to RIASEC, to careers, to majors, and even things like internships and beyond, even courses and classes. So I think we got everything done there. I probably took more than 30 minutes. Your next steps will be to take the strong MBTI, and then we will discuss the results once I get those back. Once you take those assessments, the strong MBTI assessment, the results will come back to me, and then we'll schedule some time to talk. So hopefully you got something out of this time together, the who, the what, the why, and some of the other elements. But more importantly, that you see that learning this language of interest and the RIASEC is really individual. It could change over time. There's a chance that maybe it won't. For me, social, enterprising, artistic. I'm a social helper. I'm an enterprising persuader. I love public speaking and persuasion. And I claim artistic as my third, creative self-expression. I like to design, to develop, to create what I speak about, how I speak about it, etc. Those have been my themes probably my whole life. And the clear that I've been around those themes and knowing that I lead with social helping has really informed the decisions I've made about the career paths that I would follow. I hope the same for you. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm excited to see your jigsaws, so don't delay. I know I've given you homework, but I won't give you the assessments on their own without going through this process first. So I hope this has been useful. I hope it sets the stage for our future conversations. And I'm excited about the process for you to not only think about where you'll head after high school or post-secondary, but also as you start to develop a vision of your hoped for possible self. It's been a pleasure being with you. Look forward to speaking to you next. Okay, take care.